So, hello, Cara, and welcome to RnR English.
Hi, Martin.
You know what? I've literally just thought how lucky you are because you are the first person ever to be interviewed on RnR English with video. How does that make you feel?
Oh, I feel so, I feel like I should give an Oscar speech, but I feel so grateful and I feel so privileged and I feel so blessed. Yeah, that's really exciting. Well, I think it's always better, isn't it, when people can see your face?
Well, this is what I often say. I do a podcast because I have a face for the radio, so it's better people can't see my face. That's generally what I tell the listeners. That's why I started it. Um, Never mind. So I met Cara in Berlin at the Language Influencers Summit. And Cara has a blog called Leo Listening. That is a very small introduction. So why don't you fill in the gaps and tell us something about you, why you started the blog?
Oh, yeah, there's so much to tell, isn't there? So, okay, well, I guess we can talk about the fact that, yeah, the blog is called Leo Listening because my name is Cara Leopold.
Hmm.
And Leopold is you can confirm this. Have you ever met another British person called Leopold?
I don't think so. No, I don't
Okay,
think
so
so.
it's a very unusual name in the UK. But I think it's quite a cool name. So I wanted to like find a way to put Leo
Yeah,
or
nice.
some part of my name in the name of the
Yeah,
the, the blog.
you want it to be your name. You don't want to use someone else's name, do you?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, well, criteria, my name, and make it like sound. I really like
Mhm.
alliteration. So this is when you have
Okay.
like two words that start with the same letter.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, obviously Leo starts with
Leo
an L.
listening.
Yeah, so I had to pick an area of English that alliterated.
Yeah, nice.
Alliterated, is that a word? I don't know.
Let's say it's a word.
Okay,
It definitely
so
sounds like one.
yeah, so Leo listening is what I came up with. Which is it's not such a smart idea because like obviously I teach English and I don't have English in the title,
Mm.
and that is definitely not so good. But oh well, never mind.
Exactly. As I told you, I've got a grammatical mistake in the name of my podcast. So, at least it's grammatically correct.
It is. I think it is grammatically correct. I suppose the only other thing, and I know this now, is like when you create your website, if you type in like two separate words, it puts a hyphen. So
All
that's
right.
the little line
Yeah.
between. So that probably makes it worse because then people have to type Leo hyphen listening. But you can just type it in the internet and you'll find it, obviously.
Exactly. We will find
Yeah,
you. But tell us about it. Well, how, because you live in France as well. How
I
did you end
do.
up in France?
Oh, it's so much to tell, Martin. So, yeah, I ended up in France just because I was studying French at university,
Mhm.
among other things, and I had spent some time in France abroad, like during my studies.
Mhm.
Not like a year abroad, like people usually do, but I had spent like 5, 6 weeks or whatever
Okay.
abroad, and I was like, yeah, I really like this. I want to like, I think this will really help my French to move abroad. So I want to. This is what I want to do after I finish university. And yeah, so I finished university and I had the opportunity basically to come to the city that I'm still living in to
Mm.
teach English. So I did that, and it was only supposed to be for like a year, 2 years. Well, the job was only for a year, like two
Okay.
years maximum. But I decided to stay anyway, sort of in spite of having like no career prospects or whatever. But I didn't really care. I just wanted to live in France.
I
So
understand you very well.
okay, so yeah, so I just did that. So that's ticked off like a big to do
Okay.
on my to do list. Like live in France, done.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been here for 12 years. I've been in the
Oh,
same
wow.
place. Yeah, because like in Berlin, we met some like there was like some digital nomad types, who've
Yeah.
like lived in all different countries, and I'm just like I've been in the same place for 12 years. It's like not even a famous place, but I like living here. So
Exactly. That's all that counts. You use some nice rock and roll vocabulary there when you said digital nomad. So they're people that
yeah,
work all around the world, just get their computer out, and that's where they work for that day.
Yeah, making ebooks that the world doesn't really need out of Chiang Mai in Thailand. So if you live in Thailand, you probably know the sort of people that I'm talking about. Well, they're like the bromads. The bromads are the Americans in flip-flops.
I didn't even know that term, the
Yeah,
bromads.
bromads. It's a sort of like, yeah, kind of the Americans who are just there to like chat up the women and
Oh, okay, yeah.
live on the cheap in Thailand. And
Oh, nice.
yeah.
So yeah, you're obviously teaching English. Well, you still are, but now you do it online with Leo Listening. So tell us, what is Leo
Tell
Listening?
us all
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, so it's a website all about listening. So yeah, like, so listening in English, it's like the thing that like most people seem to complain about.
100%. Certainly over here in Italy, that's the number one complaint of everyone saying they have difficulty understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So I thought the world needed a website about it. Well,
Nice.
actually, like it just came out of like a client, a student needing help with it, and then that kind of sent me down the rabbit hole of
Okay.
getting interested in how to teach it properly, because you can teach it, and there's
Absolutely. I often think this sometimes. In fact, I went to a seminar recently how they said that often in English classrooms, they don't teach it, they just almost test it. You just have a listening exercise, and then there's some questions, and that's it. But you're not actually teaching it about how, like these listening skills.
yeah, how do you actually like learn them? How do you improve it? Yeah, because it
Yeah,
tends to come down to like you have to do these crappy exercises in
exactly.
class. I know I used to do them. I didn't know any better before I started like researching this. So I would be like, A, B, or C.
Yeah,
What did you get? Oh, well, you're wrong. Why? None of that. Better luck next time. Too
yeah,
bad. You got it wrong. Move on. And
yeah,
then the other thing that you hear from teachers is like, oh, well, just listen to loads of English,
yeah,
but that's not,
yeah.
it's not necessarily very helpful either. So
So what's your advice? What do you give? What advice do you give students then?
oh, good question. Well, there's a few things, I guess there's a few things. So I would say, well, what I think really helps is if you can, is to listen to something that comes with a text,
Sure.
because that's like automatic learning for you. If you can listen to something and then check back with a text, you can kind of see, so this is what I'm missing, or
Yeah,
this is what's actually going on.
sure. Rock and Roll English family members, by the way, get a transcript for each episode. So
Well,
just
there you go.
saying, yeah.
Just saying, you know what you're talking about, Martin, if you're giving them a transcript.
There,
So
there's no marketing there, okay? I'm just mentioning that people do get a transcript. That's it.
just purely factual. Yeah.
Exactly, that's it.
So yeah, so that definitely helps. And yeah, maybe being a bit more strategic about what you actually listen to. So
Hmm.
most people, they want to be able to understand the people that they talk to in real
Always
life.
helps. Always helps.
Always helps. So like I've worked with people who like travel a lot, or they want to move to an English speaking country. So like obviously the priority is, survive day to day
Sure.
stuff. Well, not just survive, but actually like thrive. So actually like talk to native speakers,
Yeah.
integrate into the new society. Because I think ultimately like that's what we're kind of perfecting our languages for, is we want to be accepted and to belong.
Sure. Yeah, I certainly took a long time to do that in Italy. I love that phrase though. That could be your phrase. I don't know if that is. Don't not just to survive, but thrive.
Thrive. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I probably took that from somewhere, but
Okay.
yeah. So in that sense, yeah. What was I talking about? Resources. So like I see it all the time. People who and this is why you should talk to a listening teacher and not just any random teacher on the internet. Is that I'll see people like recommending TED Talks, and I honestly don't understand. The thing I think is happening is people are like, well, the TED Talk has a transcript, so we
Okay.
should recommend TED Talks. And for me, this is backwards thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So you should be thinking about, working backwards from, okay, who or what do I want to understand? And then finding, and then listening to more of that.
Okay.
Rather than being like, well, a TED Talk has a transcript. Yeah,
Sure.
but like, are you is your number one priority understanding presentations? I mean, if you have to like listen to a lot of presentations at work,
then
listen to TED Talks. But if you don't, or like your priority is understanding your mother-in-law or something, then, you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what's like one technique that we can do to improve our listening skills then? We're not asking you for all your secrets, just
no.
one. How can people?
There are no secrets really. So, well, let's imagine you've done steps 1 and 2. So you've found something that actually corresponds to what you want to understand in reality, or as close as possible, and you have a transcript. So you're already like.
But even when you say to find something that you want to understand, so like, let's say, for example, even with me, I suppose my girlfriend's parents sometimes have a little bit of difficulty sometimes understanding them. What can I listen to help me with that?
So what are we talking about? Like sort of middle-aged Italians?
Yeah.
So probably like are there some like sort of soap opera type series on Italian TV?
Yeah, no, that's great advice to really target what your goal is.
Don't mess about with Italian TED Talks. Honestly, Martin, you'd be wasting your time, and you know.
Sure. Okay, perfect. So we've got steps 1 and 2 now then.
So you've got the thing, yeah. So like, well, let's take, for example, TV series and movies. This is what I work with a lot because I really like watching them. And the good thing about TV series and movies is you get an instant transcript because you've got the subtitles.
Sure.
Or you can even just like Google, for most series or movies, well, for English, I don't know about other languages, you can kind of just like Google script plus the name of the movie, and you can get the whole script for free. This is the magic of the.
Certainly Netflix as well now. It's really easy. If people have Netflix, you just click on the, put on the subtitles, and and
you're good to go.
Yeah.
So you've got steps 1 and 2 covered, and also generally, well, depending on what you watch, but like as long as it's not a documentary, like most movies and TV series contain natural sounding dialogue, particularly if they're like modern, and particularly if it's like more of a drama rather than a comedy. In fact, some of the dialogue is almost harder than what you'd hear in real life. So it's like a really good kind of for training your ear. So you've got that, you're watching it. So like, I think the temptation is though to like be like, oh, well, it's like a TV series, so I'm just going to like stick it on like I would in my language. I'm just going to lie on the couch and watch it because I've had a hard day. But what you can sort of challenge yourself to do just now and again is, if you've got like a bit of paper or something near you, you can just stop it when it's a bit tricky and listen to it a few times and kind of write out what you hear. Right? Just
almost
play
like a dictation.
Yeah, like a little dictation. Just play around with it, right? And and don't go crazy, because sometimes I see people doing dictations like, I transcribed the entire episode of Game of Thrones or whatever, and I'm just like, Jesus, have you got no life? Like, you don't need to try. Even like a minute of speech takes a long time.
100%. In fact, when I tell people to transcribe some of the podcasts, I say like 30 seconds.
Yeah, not even. You can even start smaller. You can take like 10 seconds. Like with 10 seconds of dialogue, I can teach people like the main features of connected speech that make English difficult to understand.
Oh wow!
Like, I just need 10 or so seconds. Like usually it's always the same problems that come up. It's always the same words that are difficult. So, you could just pick any small section that you find tricky. And then because you've got your subtitles, you've got an instant correction. Well, it can't tell you everything, but it's a start. You can start to see, okay, so I missed this. Why did I miss this? I misheard that. Oh, that's a word I know. So it just gives you some insight, and you don't get that insight if you're just listening to stuff and you're just kind of like, you don't know.
I often say to students how there's a difference between sort of passive study and active study. I don't necessarily think passive study is bad and like don't do it. Obviously, to continue, but to have a mix, you want to be doing some of both.
Exactly. Yeah, because you could easily like listen to you on the podcast, like you say because we just interviewed each other before, but like you were saying about like people listening to your podcast on public transport, that's probably not the time that you're going to be like, get your books out and writing stuff down, because you're maybe like standing up, hanging onto the rail. But obviously you could just listen to it and enjoy it, and then you can go back and you can do something a bit more active with it.
Sure, exactly.
And given how important it is to get repetition in language learning, like coming back to the same thing from like different angles
Sure.
is a great way to like repeat something without it being like totally boring. Like,
Yeah. No, yeah, it's a
so,
great idea. So language learning, you said you've lived in France for 12 years, obviously
yeah.
speak French. What were the sort of main difficulties you had? What helped you the most?
I would say so. Like I said, we're going back a bit here in time. So I started university in 2003,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went on like 2 kind of extended trips to France in 2005 and 2006. So like that really showed me the importance of like immersion and how being in the environment can really accelerate your level. So I was like, when I got back home, I was like, okay, I need to create an immersion environment. I was going to say an inversion environment, an immersion environment for myself. So then I just went crazy trying to get as much French input as possible. Because even though I was studying it at university, you can probably imagine that it's not very useful what you actually learn at university.
Sure.
Like for like day-to-day life. So yeah, I used to like, it's a bit embarrassing really, I used to listen to like the French radio. So if from the UK, you can actually like with a real radio, I'm not talking online, because this was like 2006-7.
Okay.
And we had like 1 PC in the house and there were no smartphones and nobody really knew about like online learning.
Sure. And but the what you're saying here is something that I actually tell learners a lot now. With technology the way it is today, it is actually a lot easier to create this sort of full immersion, even if you're not actually in the country of the language you want to speak, because like, I don't know, podcasts, like TV series, you can speak to people as well, you can get language partners, you can do so many things and create that environment without actually leaving. Like,
you don't even have to leave your house.
Exactly, yeah.
Whereas I had to leave my house, like to speak French in the UK. Like I think I went to some Alliance Française classes, or like it's more like a meetup, like with people who already know how to speak. Or like if there was an Erasmus student who spoke French, I'd be like, "Oh, talk to me," you know, really annoying. So yeah, that's what you had to do. And this isn't even that long ago. Like I'm not that old, but things have changed very, very quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't know, like maybe if I had been born 10 years later, would I have like not come to France?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I still would have come. But yeah, you can definitely do all the things without moving. So like if you're happy where you're living, especially if you're learning English, like don't uproot your life. Like it was easier for me because I was 22, I was single, I didn't really have any career prospects as such in the UK. So I just like, I'm gonna go, I'm just leaving, bye.
When I moved abroad as well, because I was I think 25 at the time, but I didn't know a word, so it was really stressful as well, of like not.
Oh, I don't recommend that.
Yeah, exactly. So don't do anything stupid like I did. That was a disaster. Yeah.
Okay.
I had this idea, I think, of like just going there like a week later, I'll just be like fluent. The reality of that was actually obviously very different.
That must be that must have been a shock. Yeah, because at least like I had good enough, like basically when I arrived in France,
you arrived
I
in
would
French.
see what I mean about immersion. No, but I would say like my French was good enough for me to like basically find a way to talk about the thing I needed to talk about, but it wasn't very like idiomatic.
Okay, sure.
I wanted to make it more like French sounding basically instead of like English sounding. And also I didn't realize how bad like my accent was or things like this. Like I had no clue. Because you know the bar for foreign language learning is set very low in the UK. So even if you're specialized in language learning, like the expectations are maybe not very high.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah.
And there's nobody around you. Like I suppose it depends where you grow up. Some people maybe grow up in more multilingual environments, but this was not my case. So like there's nobody around you like being a role model for speaking a foreign language really well. So it's like in spite of everything, you know, I managed to make it work. But I'm always impressed by the level of people's English. Like people who've never really left their country have You meet
Yeah,
some people who have amazing levels of English.
yeah, no, I'm totally with you there. Yeah, I mean, so my sort of close group of friends, I'm pretty much the only one that, well, speaks like sort of more or less fluently another language. But it's not like any of my friends are stupid or anything like that. They just don't speak other languages. Whilst when I'm here in Italy, like I know so many people that speak English really well.
Yeah, well, everybody else in the world is pretty much bilingual, even if they're not
Yeah,
bilingual with English. Like the normal situation in a lot of countries is bilingualism.
yeah, sure,
Like,
yeah,
you know, people speak their language plus another language of the country or whatever. So um yeah, it's kind of the exception to only speak one. But yeah, it's the same for if I think of friends from school, the only people who spoke a foreign language maybe really well were people whose parents
oh, okay, yeah,
spoke another language, and so they like maybe transmitted it, but that doesn't necessarily like happen to
yeah,
everyone.
yeah,
So
no, 100%, yeah. Um, so before I get on to the last question, I want to ask you again about certainly dictations, because I read on your website how sort of big you are on dictations.
yeah, maybe I'm too big on dictations, but I think you have to, how else, the thing is, like, if I give people stuff to listen to, unless they do a dictation, I don't know what they're catching or not. Like, I can't go inside their brain.
Okay,
So
right.
the you know, so I have to make them do it. Like,
Okay, yeah,
there's how, you know, otherwise how do I know?
sure.
Yeah.
So you obviously have like a few courses as well, don't you, where you teach people how to get rid of subtitles.
Yes.
So what's like one of the things that you do on the course then?
Well, I guess we do.
So there's obviously some dictations.
We definitely do some dictations, yes, because
Mhm.
yeah, like I said, I need to know where
Of
people are
course,
at
yeah.
and what it is that they're missing. So that's a
Okay,
big,
that's great. Yeah, so you can
yeah.
identify their sort of weaknesses and
Yeah, and then that allows me to go in and explain, okay,
okay,
here's,
great.
let me break this down for you. Here's exactly why you're you're missing it. So, you know, I will make like videos where I go through that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, to explain to people, because you do need to have it, like it's a great starting point to like work on your own and do a dictation and then check. But
Hmm.
like the next part is a bit more tricky because it's actually having somebody like be like, okay, here's why, here's what you need to do. And then
Okay.
with my students we do a lot of pronunciation work, like
Great.
not so much to like, I'm not trying to coach them or get rid of their accent or improve their pronunciation, and we're just like playing around with how the English really sounds. So I'll kind of like write it out for them how it's like supposed to sound, and then they try and mimic it. So it's quite funny.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pronunciation certainly is a thing that lots of English teachers stay away from a bit. So yeah, to actually obviously identify that and tackle that is a good idea.
yeah. No, it's important. It's not emphasized enough, and that's something like I could have saved myself so many headaches in French if like, well, I suppose it was my responsibility too, but if I just like known a bit more about pronunciation
Sure.
and kind of the sound and spelling correspondences, like now I've kind of just like learned it all by osmosis, just kind of like from living here, I've
Yeah.
adapted my accent to make it sound as close
Sure.
as possible.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's a really long process, and you can do it a lot more quickly if someone shows you, like, here is physically how you make this sound. And
Yeah,
if you don't make this sound, people won't understand you because they will think you're saying this.
sure. That's the thing, because pronunciation is obviously physical as well. Lots of people don't understand that of it's like
Yeah.
how
You
the way
can't
you
just
move
like
your mouth.
shout words at people and expect them to like pronounce them
Yeah.
back to you perfectly. Like if you don't show them what they're supposed to do,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah. Um, okay, so one very important thing for me, you obviously live in France.
yes.
What is the deal there with like saying hello and goodbye to people? Because certainly in Italy, all listeners of Rock and Roll English know that I have a lot of difficulty with, is it one kiss, is it two? It's
Uh,
crazy. What
it's
about in France?
fraught. It's a nightmare. It's just, well, it's a bit, well, where we live, so we're in the east of France, about an hour from Switzerland. Switzerland, that's another story. But yeah, here where we are, we just do two.
Oh, you just did too.
That's fine. Well, what I find is because I wear glasses, like I usually almost take the other person's eye out with the edge of my glass. So some people who wear glasses, like they take their glasses off, but I can't be bothered. I
Really?
just, yeah, yeah. And they really go in, well, thing is, you're not kissing, are you? You're just like putting your cheek on another person's cheek and making a kissing noise. Like, anyway, but there are definitely like French people who don't like doing it. Because I was with a friend this weekend, and we kissed to say goodbye, and she's like, "I'll kiss you because I like you," but she really doesn't like because earlier that day she had been at her dad's birthday party and she didn't kiss her dad bye, and
She doesn't like her dad. Then she likes
doesn't
you
like her
more
dad.
than she likes
No,
her dad.
she was like, "We just never do that with my dad," and I know that she doesn't like that, and she is a French person.
Yeah.
So some French people like they don't really like, but some of them really go for it. Like they slap their cheek against your cheek and they do a big kissing noise. Yeah, it's slightly in Switzerland. Is it maybe 3?
Yeah, certainly in the north of Italy as well. I know it's 3 in some places. I had a couple of listeners tell me it's 3 the other day.
Wow.
3 is just, it has to be an even number at least.
Yeah, odd number is weird. It's always a bit awkward, like if you don't know which side to go.
That's the other thing, isn't it? It's a nightmare. Do you have that awkward moment as well? Like, do I know this person well enough now to give them a kiss?
That's usually fairly clear. Like if it's a friendly context, then you can pretty much, yeah, it's fine. I think unless it's like work, because at work it's all about shaking hands. You have to shake hands all the time, every time you see somebody, and you have to say hello, and it's just really silly. It's like a Monty Python sketch for people who know.
Although I must say, I've noticed in the UK as well now, I don't know the rules. I've always said all countries should have like a document where it's clear of the way you have to say hello and goodbye to people, because otherwise it's just a minefield, and it's just
it is really difficult. Actually, yeah, thinking about that when we were in Berlin, like I said hello to Ollie Richards on the second day, and we did like a French kiss. I have no idea what a French kiss, no, it's something else. We did like the kiss on the cheeks, and then afterwards I was like, why did we just do that? Like, why?
I've noticed as well, some people, I had with a girl I know from home fairly recently, I thought she was coming for a kiss, so I sort of gave her a kiss, but she was just coming for a hug, and I was like, oh God.
Awkward. But people do sometimes kiss you in the UK, like maybe like close family members or yes. But the worst thing in France, I don't know if you have noticed this in Italy, is whenever you're in a group situation and it's like you're expected to kiss everyone when you arrive and kiss everyone when you leave, and that's so stupid. Like,
I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I say that all of the time, and it takes so long and it's so much effort, and I think, look, I can't do this. I often say I have to stay at the party, so I think it'll be easier if they go, and then I only have to say goodbye to a couple of people.
Exactly. No, this is so stupid. Like, you've got to kiss 26 people before you can leave. It's like, okay, I want to leave in half an hour, so I better start kissing people now, or I'm gonna like miss my bus, or that I don't get. Like, find a better system, or
exactly. Well, it's so great to know that other people are suffering like me with these things. I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this.
But even like I say, even some French people, they're like, they don't really like it, but they kind of like
have to do it.
They have to do it anyway. So like, many people are suffering.
We should start a revolution against this. We can fight it. We can fight it. So anyway, Cara, where can people find out more about you?
All over the internet. Well, not actually all over the internet. On the dark web, on the normal internet. No, they can go to leolistening.com. So Leo hyphen listening.com. So that's my website. There's a blog. 3 years of almost 3 years of articles all about listening.
Oh wow!
All about listening.
Oh wow!
Even a podcast I made for a bit. All kinds of stuff. So that's on there. And what else is there? There is Facebook. You can come and say hello on Facebook.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the main. I suppose I'm on YouTube as well, but like less. Okay. So Facebook is probably the main place. The website. Go and have a look.
I will have links to all of this in all over the place, in all of the places that Cara just mentioned, actually. So make sure you go there and find out some more stuff about listening, because as we said, how important it actually is. trying to use some of these techniques that Cara can give you.
Yeah, it's the magical key to fluency. No, I'm just joking. I do think, no, but I'd say that helped my French get a lot better. It was just coming to France, listening to people, copying, and then sounding like a French person.
Exactly. So as I said, I think on the other interview, it's the most natural way to learn languages. That's what you do when you're children. So that works quite well. You know, we all speak our native languages well. So system's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. Listening for the win all the way. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you can catch things, you can copy them and you can speak.
Exactly.
There you go.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thanks a lot for your time and speaking.
Thanks.
See you very soon, but most importantly, just keep on rocking. You didn't expect that, did you?
No.
Okay, anyway, that was enough. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.